And we'll.
All right. Clicking live. You're live.
What is up, everybody? Come on, join us. We got a good one tonight. But before we get into all of that, just want to say hello to my brothers. It's always good to see you guys each week.
Mike, your mic is all right, man. I like that. You got this whole quiet thing going on. You try not to be loud today. That's great.
While we let you guys see who can win the mumble off.
Am I mumbling? Does it sound like
mumble off?
No, you're not.
You're just kind of laid back, you know.
You're not mumbling, man.
Not being loud.
You sound great, Claudia Mac. I don't know why Katie's trying to joke.
KD's
Anyway.
That's funny.
That sound like Quiet Storm over there. I don't know what's up with you.
Dude, I need to stop buying stuff.
you know you can't help it.
If you saw this setup, I got a mixing board right here.
You know you got an Oculus that you're about to plug into the back of your neck so you don't have to speak at all.
So it's a new mic, right?
It's a new mic.
See, I was giving you love on the new mic, man.
On the new mic. Yeah,
there you
man.
Go.
So it's a Shure MV7, which is an XLR and USB mic. So you can use them both at the same time if you want. But I've got it XLR'd up into this Mackie board, which is a Mackie USB board. So I'm able to, high pass filters and low pass filters and all kinds of good stuff.
And I like your extender mount that you got there. You got the mic on. It looks real, bro.
Yeah, man.
They have to have the professional.
Have to have the Shure logo showing, all of that. Dude, I was setting up for an hour.
Well, let's talk about the show that we have planned for everybody today.
Yeah. So before I pass it to you, Dave. So our last show, we had Gail Hamilton Masondo on, and Gail was our first manager, and she gave us all this information that we didn't know. Did not know. We didn't know about that first showcase and a bunch of other stuff. So it was an amazing time with her. And about a month or two before that, we had Doug Smith from Huntsville, Alabama on. Doug is the gentleman who gave us our first break in the studio and all that kind of good stuff. So the show tonight is going to bridge all of that. And I have to throw it to you now, David Thomas.
And the reason why this show is going to be the bridge, our guest tonight is none other than Jim Ed Norman. He is the one individual responsible for our first, how do we call it, big break. He was the president of Warner Brothers in Nashville, and he took such a big leap of faith on us. And what Claude is referring to is he came to that first showcase that Gail had arranged for us, uninvited. And so
we've been thinking for 30 years.
And we've been thinking that for years. We don't know how he heard about Take Six. We've been told that it was Mac McAnally. We were told for some kind of reason, I thought Mark was involved in setting it up when Gail was retelling her recollection, giving us her recollection of the facts. But today we have in the studio Jim Ed Norman, former president of Warner Brothers Records. He's a world-class producer, writer. He's been a arranger, also a conductor. He's been working with groups like the Eagles since way before we were ever signed to Warner Brothers. He's a legend in the industry. Please welcome our guest tonight and our friend, most importantly, Mr. Jim Ed Norman.
Yeah. There he is.
Jim Ed, welcome.
How you guys doing? You look great.
Thank you. So are you, man.
It's good to be with you.
We're working hard to keep up with how great you look.
Hang in there. That's all it takes is time.
So, Jim Ed, I want to jump right in. I don't know if you heard us talking at the beginning, but we've heard so many different stories of how it came to be and how you came to actually show up at that first showcase in Nashville. What was it? Koinonia? Is that what we're remembering? At Koinonia. And we thought that you came uninvited. We had no idea how you found out. Since we've been doing the Spread Love podcast, we've heard that it could have been Mac McAnally who gave you a half of a tape of David and Goliath. First of all, we're not even sure that one half of David and Goliath was what actually said helped you put two and two together to get to the showcase. So we would like you to tell us how you first found out about Alliance at the time, because that was our name, before we had to change it to Take Six.
I was fortunate to be involved with Mac McAnally. Mac was on Geffen Records, and David had called and asked if I would be involved and help Mac. Maybe he could make a record that would work in the country marketplace as opposed to the pop marketplace that they'd been operating in. And through that relationship, one day Mac came into my office and said, I've got a tape that you need to hear. Now, unfortunately, half of it's been erased. But I think, Jamed, you'll get the idea, and there's you just need to hear it. He knew that I had interests that went well beyond just country music. I was a great music lover, and so I put the tape in, the cassette, and push play, and sure enough, just in the middle of the song goes, but it's the most glorious, beautiful voices and sound I'd heard, and it was just, it was astounding and awestruck over what I was hearing. So I asked him about it, and he said it was a group of young men at Oakwood School in Huntsville, and that he didn't know a lot other than that he'd gotten the tape from the engineer. It was, he had been in there just a few days before working. And that's how he then happened to get it. And how it got erased, we never quite got to the bottom of it, and it didn't matter. I used to play that tape in my office at Warner Brothers, on stun. I had great old big JBL 4311s, Marantz amplifier, and I would close my door to the office and put the tape in and just crank it up and sit there like this and just listen. And I found out later that people would come down the hallway even and say, what's he listening to? What's Jim Ed doing now? And I happened to be at the same time producing several artists at Warner Brothers. And one day I was in the studio with one of the Warner Brothers artists. Sessions are done in those days with working with union musicians. You'd do a session from 10 to 1 for 3 hours. You'd take a break from 1 to 2, and you'd come back and play from 2 to 5, and maybe take another break in 6 to 10. And the morning session, at the end of the morning session, I checked in with the office, and my assistant at the time said, Jim Ed, you know that group that you're always playing as loud as your speakers will handle is doing a showcase today at the Koinonia bookstore. And I did then walk down the street, because Koinonia was right down the street from Emerald.
Corner.
Yep. And I was on my way walking up 16th Avenue to get up to the Warner building, and it took me right by there. So I did. I walked in uninvited. Koinonia was laid out where there was a record store, bookstore, and then there was this little ante room to the side, and chairs set up and 6 microphones in front. And I spoke with some people there and said, is it okay? I didn't have an invitation, but it would be okay if I come in and listen. I'd love to be able to hear. And that was okay that I sat down. I had not introduced myself or said anything about what I was there for, other than just I had wandered in. What I recall is the people kind of looking at me strange, because I think I had on blue jeans and a Surfboards Hawaii t-shirt. It was hot. I sat down, went in the room and sat down. And I don't remember how many people were there. I've heard several other people who were there that day refer to it, and there might have been 10 people that were there. And So then all of a sudden, 6 people walked out in front and of those microphones and did one of the most glorious showcases I've ever heard in my life. I left, I mean, at the end of the show, some people had been around the side there, one of whom was Gail Hamilton. And I went and said, are you by chance involved with the group? Because I could tell they'd been quite active, making sure that everything was together. And it was yes, one of the managers. And I, for the most part, said, look, if you want a deal at Warner Brothers, you got one. And they looked at me with what, you know, I got on a t-shirt and blue jeans, and I think I was quite suspect, like, who is this joker? And I think, if I recall, 48 hours later, after whatever checking had been done, you guys were sitting in my office, and away we went. And it was the most amazing experience, and everything that's transpired since has just been, as I said, glorious. You were called Alliance at that time, and we were just getting started in the Christian business. Warner's Nashville then started the Christian division for Warner's. We were looking for a name, and when then you were faced with the fact that there was a trademark issue with that group on Wyndham Hill, I think it was, called Alliance, you became Take 6, and I was able to use the name Alliance for the Christian label. So not only have you changed people's lives as a group, a singular group of 6 amazing men making great music, but you were also able to bring the name Alliance into the whole process as well, and marry those two things together. That's the story I remember, but I'm sure you can ask people.
Thank you for
that is the official story. So now we can actually close the door on that book. Matter of fact, it's not that anybody else was telling us a different story, but we had different facets of the story. So you have actually now put all the pieces together, and now we know. So first of all, thank you again for taking that leap of faith on Alliance at the time, but on us as a group. Of course, it was life-changing. 6 young guys, completely eyes wide open, had no idea what we were doing. And not only did you take that leap of faith and just, like you said, walk around to the back of the bookstore and say, if you want a deal, you have a deal. But beyond that, when we went in to make the record, from what I recall, basically you pretty much said, go in and do what it is that you do.
Yes.
Other A&R heads of A&R and other presidents and other people that were signing new acts, in a lot of cases, don't give you that much leeway and that much freedom to do what you do, because they're so concerned about making sure that it's commercially acceptable and can get airplay, which ironically we never did. So
yeah, well, it's always
I don't want to say never, I'll say rarely did.
It's a challenge when you're at the label. But one thing I want to make clear is that I've had people come up and talk to me in the past as well and say, Jim, that was so unusual that you would sign a group like Take 6 when you're the Nashville division. And I have always said, it is one of, if not the easiest thing I ever did in my life, was making a commitment to what it is they did and what was going on, because of just the sheer musicality. So it was not a hard thing, David. It was really quite easy.
Well, we remember, Jim Ed, but we remember right after the showcase, we did meet you.
Yeah.
And so we saw that shirt and all of that too. And the way I remembered it was exactly like you said, but you came up to us, you said, I'm Jim Ed Norman. I'm the president or vice president, whatever, of Warner Brothers Records. And I love what you guys do. And we'd like to sign you. I have no idea what we'll do with it, but
That's right.
we'd like to sign you. And in my spirit, I was like, this is the country music division of Warner Records. And in fact, I don't know if Gail ever told you this, but she told us she had sent out over 200 invitations. And when there were
No,
those 5 to 10 people there, our spirits were crushed,
Yeah,
man.
we thought the showcase was an abject failure.
Yes. And she said that she invited all of the Christian record labels and none of them showed up or whatever. And here comes this dude in jeans and a shirt. And we were like, what's happening here?
well, I'm so happy for the first time in my life, and in hearing that 190 people didn't show up to a showcase because they gave us the opportunity to forge our relationship.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I want to say it was literally 20 days later that we were in the studio recording that album.
Didn't take long.
It became a whirlwind from that moment on. For the next
another
10
thing
years.
I remember you saying, and fix this if I'm saying this wrong, that you had very little expectation initially as far as a sales thing, and you really signed us because of the music and whatever. And you were like, if we sell, 20,000 copies or whatever it was, 15,000 copies, that's a good thing.
We'll go in and do maybe another one.
Yeah. When the record shipped in those days, it was a record. It was a vinyl record that as it started off. And I talked to the fellow that was in sales at the time, responsible for the record and shipping and getting it in stores. And I think we shipped 2,800 copies, as I recall. It was and I did say, it wasn't that, yes, the expectations that might be put on you in certain situations, as far as how many you would need to sell to be considered viable, it really didn't matter. You guys were sheer genius as far as what was happening, and that deserved to be heard. Now, I'd been fortunate because I'd already had success with our signings with Randy Travis, Dwight Yoakam, Faith Hill, and that provided me with the foundation to really make a decision independent of anybody else's input. We're doing this. This is the way it's going to be. And there were people who questioned the choice initially because of what it was. It flew in the face, I guess, of the conventional wisdom about what you should do and what you needed to do in order to reach people's hearts and minds, as it were. And they were
here's
wrong.
what I would say to that, Jamed, is that's also a testament of the effectiveness of your leadership. Because the only thing that I can remember walking through the halls of Warner Brothers pretty much on a weekly basis is that everyone felt like, man, hey, guys from Take Six, we're about to do this. We're about to do this. Are you guys ready to do this? And it seemed like the energy around Take Six was not only palpable, but was just through the roof. And it was that type of energy that not only grew from your love of what you were hearing and appreciating. It permeated the Warner Brothers office in Nashville, but then it started to permeate all the other offices like Burbank and New York. And you got the whole team to pretty much just champion, let's take this group that no one pretty much thinks has the formula for success and make it happen.
Well, there was,
again, we appreciate you.
Oh, like I said, easiest thing. You remember, again, because it was a vinyl record, you had these things called liner notes that'd be on the back of records. And you remember I sent the record out to people that were friends to say, will you please listen to this? Not only were they friends, but they were music people. They were musical. They appreciated great music, no matter what kind, no matter where it came from. And as I recall, Kenny Rogers was one of the people, Roseanne Cash, I think. And they immediately also became your marketing team, not only the people at Warner Brothers, but as they began to if I'm not mistaken, it was Kenny who told Quincy and said, "You need to hear
Gail
this."
said that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So and again, fortunate enough to have relationships with people, so that it was not only a team at Warner's, but there was this world of people out there waiting. And that 2,800 copies quickly became 28,000 and 280,000, and before long, 1 million plus. You know, and then you, as I recall, that record started your Grammy run for a good solid several years. I forget how many years it was, but you had boom, boom, boom. I think everybody got it.
And then right after that, the meeting that we had at the beginning of our second album was quite different from the expectation level on the first album.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it
you
was.
Remember that conversation that you told us about the sophomore album?
Mm-hmm. As far as then what it meant to try to live up to all of the, yeah.
Exactly.
And it's not unique to you. I mean, it's really a part of the business about what can happen. There are a lot of things that happen in that, but you guys never looked back. You didn't worry about it. It was just head down and kept going, doing what you know how to do best. And I think that's what it is. When everyone does what they know how to do best, the rest will come.
Well, I'll let some of the other guys lather some accolades on you.
So before we go there, though, Dave, we just so you know, Jim Ed, we're live on YouTube right now on the Take Six official YouTube page. So we've got a bunch of people who are weighing in and commenting. And our friends from the group Accent are asking, when did it start to feel like the name was getting around to listeners? Was it through live audiences, TV appearances, promotion of the album? And I guess that question is for all of us because, you know, we would have unique perspectives, you know, within the group and you being part of the record label. What did it feel like for you?
It was, I would say initially, it was word of mouth. I don't remember how much live performance was going on at the time initially, but within a matter of months, the word of mouth was really taken off. And then as the music got to, I forget who the producer of the show was, but Grammys, the independent of winning anything, that the record as it had come out and it created the kind of attention and stir that it did, you then performed on the Grammys, I think that second year, and just, you had people on there. The first year you had people on their feet before you were halfway through the song. And so that TV certainly played a significant role in the marketing. So I think it was a coordinated effort, if you will.
Yeah, man. So the thing that the questions that come up in my mind when, and we're going to get to some of these questions, but so many questions. Let's go back to your early days coming out of university. Where did your love of music come from? And what was your pathway toward becoming the president of Warner Brothers?
I was fortunate that I was surrounded by music all my life. My father was a minister, and so I was in the church hearing music. My father was a trumpet player. He, in the beginning of his career as a minister, he served, he was going to seminary and served three separate churches, as well as going to seminary. And he would do sermons Sunday morning, an early service, a late service, and one at night. By the time he had been preaching, as he got into the night service, sometimes he'd be hoarse. This was up in Iowa, because he was going to school at Northwestern University at a Garrett Seminary. And so he began to, because he used to lead the singing in the other services, because he liked to sing and he knew the hymns and could participate. These were small country churches. By Sunday night, sometimes he would be hoarse and he led the singing with the trumpet. by playing the melody of the songs on the trumpet. You guys would know the trumpet is in B flat and the music written in C. So he was having to transpose by sight as he would go along. And I remember growing up and being impressed with what it is that he did. My mother was a piano player. And so I had music. They loved music. I was exposed to classical music, show music. But we also had Mom's Mabley albums. Just wanted you to know that too.
There you go.
And so I had a good foundation as far as just music, and I grew up with a love of music, and they encouraged my love of music, such that when I began to struggle academically, because I was focused on music, that they saw that as I think a way to have me have something where they knew that I could eventually find a way to make a contribution to the world at large through music. So I had that kind of life, and we're just talking with Christian about being in Florida. And Florida was a great music state. And Christian, I don't know if it still holds up like that, but I got, to see James Brown live and Otis live and Sam and Dave live, and this great music, all kinds of things that I got. And also I mentioned the Young Rascals. I heard all kinds of music that came through. I was in bands as a kid, and actually was in one of the bands, was the first mixed band in the area. In those days, I was playing keyboard, and trumpet becoming the first instrument that I'd picked up because of my father. We were playing, you can do diddle-diddle-diddle-dip. So when R&B music came along and playing frat parties and high school dances, left-hand keyboard and diddle-diddle-diddle-dip. But that music took me, then I started switching instruments and playing a lot of different instruments. And I ended up, towards the end of my life in high school, I was playing trombone, and went to a school in Texas called North Texas State University, which was a big, and still is a big band curriculum in education. And while at that school, I happened to be walking down a sidewalk one day associated with the apartment complex where I lived. And it was a beautiful fall day, as I recall. People had their doors open to their rooms, and there was a fellow in there struggling with guitar. And I walked in and introduced myself to this fella. Said, "Hi, I'm Jim Ed Norman, and you ought to listen to this." And I think I brought him some bluegrass record, and that was Don Henley, who's a member of the Eagles. And
wow,
we became friends. Wow. Don had a band at the time already, and I had. So we became friends. We used to go to see other bands and shows together. Drive it. North Texas is north of Dallas, and so we would drive into Dallas, Fort Worth to see various artists. I had gone back one summer to Florida and was working at Kennedy Space Center on Apollo 11, the first time we went to the moon. I have a plaque that says, "If it wasn't for me, we'd have never made it to the moon." And but I got a call from Don, and unfortunately, one of the band members had been tragically killed in a motorcycle accident. And Don said, "Jim Ed, you have similar tastes and like the music that we're doing. Any chance you'd want to be in a band again?" By then, I think I realized I was really I wasn't an academic for sure, but all of that sensibility about being a teacher went away. And I dropped out of school, got in that band, that we went to Los Angeles, and as fate would have it, produced an album, did our first album, and it was produced by Kenny Rogers. That's how I happened to subsequently be able to then send Kenny your music and ask him to listen and become involved. And so but the group broke up, as frequently groups will do. You know, they can change at least. And as the group broke up, it was clear that I wanted to be an arranger, orchestral arranger, conductor, a record producer was what I really had a fascination for and a passion for. And you don't go from being the piano player in a country rock band to being an arranger and get work. People are suspect. You know, there's a lot of money riding on an orchestra sitting in a studio somewhere. And so I, at this point, became a tape copy boy for a publishing company. But I was fortunate in that when the Eagles decided that they wanted to put orchestra on a record, Don called and said, well, that's what Jim Ed's always wanted to do. Let's get Jim Ed. So the very first gig I ever had in my life, arranging for orchestra, was Desperado for the Eagles. And that then subsequently led to a call as a tape copy boy one day from Clive Davis while I'm sitting there making tape copies. The assistant, the receptionist said, Jim Ed, Clive Davis is on the phone for you. I said, yeah, right. It's one of my friends playing a joke on me, I guarantee you. But that gave me the opportunity. Clive gave me my first shot at producing. I was, again, very fortunate. The first record I produced went on to be a top 10 pop record. Wow. And that got me, I was then over in London at Wembley Stadium and conducting orchestra with the Eagles, and met a person backstage, and that led to the next production thing for me. Anne Murray, artist from Canada, female artist from Canada. And the first record that we made together, she won a Grammy, got the best pop female vocal performance that year. We had a big successful record, a song called You Needed Me, which has subsequently been recorded numerous times. And out of that, I then ended up, but you know what happened is as an independent producer and doing that, what I realized, I didn't really know anything about the business. You asked about the path to Warner's. And I didn't know anything about the business. And I thought what I would do is if I could get a job in A&R, I would use that as an opportunity to actually study and understand what goes on in the business. Because they used to just make music and turn it in. And then you had all these people that would do what they know how to do best. And if you were fortunate, you had success. I went to work at Warner's in Nashville for the head of the company to do A&R, with the idea that I would work there for 3 years. And then I was going to move back to Los Angeles, moved to Nashville. And the fellow was running the company said, Jim Ed, why don't you learn the business here? I'm going to retire in about 5 years, and maybe you could have a shot at running the company. He left in 7 months after I got there. And so, again, divine providence, if you will, but good fortune, certainly. They came to me and said, we know it's a bit early, but if you want the gig of running the company now, it's yours. You got the job is yours if you want it. And so 7 months in, being the head A&R, I was then now the head of the division. And fortunately, as I said a minute ago, had some fairly, I think it took about 3 years to get things organized, but then had success and created the opportunity to have that fateful moment with you guys at Koinonia.
So here's an interesting thing. So
that's amazing.
We got another question here, and this is kind of tied into the divine providence thing that you were mentioning.
Can I jump in with a quick question before Claude?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim Ed, what people, I don't think people realize, or that we even remember, that right when we were getting going, we were, coming into adulthood, late teens, early 20s, and how you really took us under your wing many, many, many times, aside from the music world, just teaching us and putting little gems in our ear about being a man, being young husbands, and being young fathers. And one thing that you said years ago has always, always stuck with me, and that is the fallacy of quality time. And you said there's no such thing as quality time with your kids. It is quantity of time that makes the difference. It's only with the quantity of time that the little vulnerabilities of your kids start to emerge. And take the time. Don't pencil in your kids. Spend the time with them. And so just, in light of we're coming up on Father's Day, just wanted to give you a shout out how you made such an impact on us as young dads traveling and trying to get that combination, that juggling act of a young burgeoning career and your family life. You helped us keep all of those things in perspective.
Well, thank you very much. I would say I can't imagine a finer compliment to think that it was a contribution to you rather than something that you felt was overbearing. But I do still believe that anyone who would be struggling with or trying to manage the beginning of a career, I've continued to say that same thing, that it is quantity. It's in those moments that you get this opportunity for I think you said vulnerability for the child, then to go ahead and say something that they might not normally say. And okay, hurry up now, let's relate.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't quite work that way.
Great,
and to Vin's point, Sid and I used to talk about the fact that you also gave us the advice before we even got married to set our proper expectations in order. And you said you will have the highest highs that you'll ever experience, and we were like, oh yeah, that's great. He was like, but wait, you will also have the lowest lows that you could ever experience in the same relationship, because no one can make you feel as good or as bad as the person that you're going to marry. So, and I'm sure that you probably were involved in several songs that had that same thing.
Well, children, then as children come along, it's the same thing. The highs get higher, but then the lows can get even lower because you're a part now of this process, this life. And the first time your child gets sick, the pain that you feel is a pain unlike any other you could ever have. Those were good times. And
indeed.
These are good times, and we're having them.
Well, yeah, I was gonna mention another question that's here, and it was kind of piggybacking on the divine providence thing that Jim had mentioned before. Someone said, do you feel like you were actually on a mission from God to sign Take 6? Like you knew this is what people needed to hear, a group that needed to be known?
I was on a mission, for sure. And the mission was, to me, made manifest in what I was hearing and the amazing young men that were there, and realizing that those young men that I got a chance to hear and then to meet and be in business with would be able to bring the greatest upside in every way, mission, whatever statement was going to be made theologically. And I don't know that I looked at it as that it was necessarily a mission, but what you were doing was already so it was laid out in such emphatic ways that to look back on it, I end up, and it's possible for me to then say something like divine providence. But at the time, I think it was more of pure elation and fascination with what I was hearing, and the fact that I was in this unique position to act on it. And I would say that if it wasn't mission, I did carry with me, it would be a sin not to do it.
I love that.
You're preaching right there. I like that.
I'm reminded frequently, Jim Ed, stop your preaching.
It's in your blood, man.
But here's something I would want to ask you, Jim Ed. So you sign these guys that you hear half of a tape from a writer friend. You tell us you're not really sure what you're going to do with it. You allow us to go in the studio and work on this album. When we turn that album in, if you can remember back 30 plus years now, what did you feel? How did you feel emotionally and musically when we turned that record in? Honestly.
Honestly, when you turn that record in, what I remember doing was going home and putting it on and listening to it on stun again, on listening to everything repeatedly. And it wasn't until at the time, I don't remember how old my daughters were. We had moved to Nashville with 18-month and 6-week-old baby girls. And by then they were now probably 3 and 4. But I have a video of them in there doing "Get Away, Jordan" and singing along with it, and trying to pantomime. I'm sorry, the words and sing along, do karaoke, whatever. And they knew some of the words and couldn't quite. But my fascination, Claude, with the music had not waned one bit. It was just exquisite, and I had some songs that resonated with me in ways that, as you well know, I'm constantly requesting Mary. Every time you see me, say, "Uh-oh, you better get ready. We're gonna have to sing Mary for Jim Ed." And but also one of the songs on that record too that was just exquisite in every way, shape, and form. "Quiet Place." Just I still listen to that from time to time because I think it speaks to any and all people, independent of one's theology. Quite frankly. I'm sorry, I don't know whether or not on the podcast it's better to have long stories or short little.
It's all
stories.
good. It's all good. Let me.
These are the stories that we've been
something right here, because I have the question that a lot of people ask us, and that is that throughout our career there are pinnacle moments that you just feel like, okay, this is the best of the best. I don't know if it can get any better. I'm feeling, what, as far as our career and the things that you experienced about us or being involved with us, what was your pinnacle moment? When and where and what was that moment when you felt the best?
About what I was doing, me musically, and I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, as far as Take Six is concerned.
Okay, and then Take Six. Okay, and you're talking about. That's tough, Mark, because you keep outdoing yourselves, as far as what it is that you bring and the dimensions that get brought to this. Is that you're working on a project now, as I understand it, with Beatles music, and I just said how exquisite. So the idea of what was the pinnacle, I think it's been incremental. There have been, there's something that happens and you think, oh, this is just unbeatable, and then something else happens that then outstrips that previous earlier moment. The record selling 1 million copies of a cappella jazz gospel music in those days, and just mowing down all of the other expectations about, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. That was a seminal moment for sure, if not pinnacle. And then you guys getting the Grammy, that first Grammy, and being recognized by your peers. It was wonderful when Quincy came to town, and we had his, I think he said it was at his 50 and a half birthday party over at the house. I can't remember exactly what it was. And well, I think Mark, was it you came in one day and said, Jimmy, check this out, listen to this. And you were playing me Stevie Wonder's Answer Machine. And he was saying, Stevie, I'm not in right now, but just like my friends Take Six said, be sure and spread love. That would help. So, there have been all of these things, but I think you being recognized by the industry as the penultimate, the quintessential a cappella group. And when I saw the influence that you began to have on so many other people, when I sit and listen to those a cappella or even strong male vocal groups that have gone on and happened, and you hear Take Six. When Boys to Men came along, I said, there's Take Six. You could hear what was going on and the influence that you were having, and the message that you've carried to the world of love and excellence in music. Mark, I don't know. I just as soon as I start trying to explain what it is, I realize, well, but this outstrips that, or this is that.
No, that answers it perfectly. That tells a lot. There's so many milestones that happen, and a lot of times you go back and it's one after the other. It's the same way for us. The people that we've met, the people that the high points of being in certain circles and performing, and yet, one of the most powerful moments is when we're literally out on the road, even in this day and age, and someone comes up to us and says, you know what, just hanging around you guys has changed my life.
Yes.
So, we know that spreading love is what we have always been about, but it's never really about us. It's about what God does through us. So, he used you to bring us to the world, and we are so grateful to you for accepting that and allowing that to happen, because it's definitely been something great for the world.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, easiest thing I ever did. I love being able to say that to people that come up and say, gosh, Jimmy, you were really taking a chance. I said, no, I
wasn't. That's good to hear, man. So, Jamed, I don't know, before Claude gets back to any of the questions that are coming in on YouTube. As we were talking the other day, you were saying, and even how you were talking this evening, that your first gig was with the Eagles. I was asking you last week, what are you working on? And it seems like you're back working with the Eagles again, and heading back out on the road again.
Yes. After a fairly significant life administrating, one of the things that happens in the business is that if you come to it as a creative person, but you have administrative abilities, and you have the willingness to take on those challenges, you'll eventually sort of get pulled into that. And when we're talking about the balance that can go on in family life, the same thing happens in that professional life when you're trying to do creative, and then you have this administrative side that you're also expected to do if you're at a particular level in a label situation. And after years of doing that, the place I am is I want to be in the studio or someplace making music. And I was fortunate in that I got a call from my friend Don Henley saying, we're going to mount a Hotel California tour. You having done all of our orchestral arranging and conducting for the records, essentially you can do whatever it is you want to do. You can do none of it or all of it. And at one point I looked at doing charts, but not conducting on the road. And then I realized I'm not going to ever get a chance to stand in front of a 50-piece orchestra and a 20-member choir conducting my original charts that I did back at the early stages of my career.
Wow.
And So yes, and we got started. We had done half of I think about a 25-day tour, half of it when COVID shut everything down. So I went back to the studio and as far as doing music and producing, and then the email came in just a couple of weeks ago saying, get ready. We're headed back out. We're going to make a run at it. Hopefully everything will hold up, and they're already adding additional dates. We were going to go to back to Wembley, but it got canceled, and the word was travel restrictions. So I think it's just international travel isn't comfortable yet in every sense of the word. So it's just going to be domestic right now, but there are already some venues that had been played previously that are already being rebooked. Madison Square Garden is where we start, and already done 3 shows there, and now 2 more are being done, and then slowly working west, filling in those dates that had not been done originally. So yes, back out again, and it's a talk about a rush is, a lot of times when you're listening and trying to make sure that what you're doing is in sync. Every now and then you'll be in a particular venue and a moment where the energy from the crowd is just so extraordinary. It overwhelms whatever it is that you're hearing. And you know that people are being renewed with a common sense of joy and wonder, and in some cases nostalgia. The audiences are a great mix age-wise too. It's very interesting to see when talking with younger people, oh yeah, this is the music that I grew up on because my parents played it incessantly. Okay. So
that sounds amazing, man. Wow.
What I'm excited about though is what I heard about the Germany thing that you're going to be doing there with the symphony. I can't wait to hear that. I hope I get a sneak peek.
Come on over, man. Come on over.
Yeah, we might have to bring you with us.
That's right.
When is it actually that you're doing it?
August 29th, I believe, in Dresden, Germany. We're doing like 14 or 15 Beatles tunes that we're in the midst of arranging now, and it's quite a project, but it's going to be fun.
I tell you, I think I'd be there, and no pun intended with this one, a New York minute.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. It is pun intended. Yes.
That's right. New York minute was like the first thing that we recorded professionally because of you. You asked us to record that with that.
Well, oh gosh, and again, my pleasure. Thrill for me as well. But oddly enough, we start at Madison Square on the 22nd of August, and then just start that run that's going on. And while it's not night after night after night, getting over for the 29th is probably going to be slim. That happens. That's why I need a sneak peek after you get something.
We'll give you a piece of a tape.
Indeed. Half a tape.
So I have 2 more questions from the chat here, and they're really, really good questions. One is, I wonder what music artist Jim Ed wants to see Take 6 collaborate with.
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I'd have to actually think about that. I see. Yes, that'd be great. One of the things I happened to hear the other day, quite by accident, because the file had been mislabeled, but it was when you guys came and sang with Herb Jeffries. Do you remember the Bronze Buckaroo?
Yes.
The thing. And you guys did Tumbling Tumbleweed. What the coolest version of that's ever been done. But when I think about who I would like to see you collaborate with, then selfishly there'd be somebody that I was working with, producing and in the studio with. But I don't know. That's a question that probably outstrips a competent answer right now, just based on what's going on musically, and they, well, this would be a great
Sure.
combination. So I'm sorry that one I'll fall short on that one.
No, it's all good. We have another one. Why did Take Six leave Warner Brothers? Was your contract up, or did your Reprise label defunct? When did Jim Ed decide to let Take Six go independently?
Jim Ed did not decide that.
Exactly.
Right.
I think Take Six, the nature of contracts, they have a time and also material, if you will, the number of projects that you do, and you do get to the end of an agreement, and I think the door swings both ways on those kinds of things with respect to it. And you guys really took the ball and ran with it, and at the perfect time in many respects, because of your visibility already and the business that is already inherently there for you with the music that you do. So, but no, Jim Ed did not end Take Six's relationship.
No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, I remember we were pretty much working at there was the last couple of records that we did, or projects that we did with Warner Brothers, with you at the helm, Jim Ed. I believe it was in coordination with Warner Brothers in Burbank.
Yes.
And so we were going back and forth, and you were working out deals between the Burbank office and your office there in Nashville. And it ended up that we were spending more and more time on the West Coast. I even think at that time I might have even moved out there.
You did, yes.
You moved.
Yeah, I think that I was talking about, not that I did move, yes, but when I moved. And then Alvin was out there, and I think, at that last meeting, I think it was just the three of us, you, Alvin, you and I, at that final last meeting. So, man, but that run that we had was absolutely epic. And matter of fact, it can never not be said that it wasn't all due to you and the foresight and the divine providence that you were blessed with and obedient to. And that's why we say thank you indeed. And we just can't thank you enough, man. Yeah. So anytime you have any artist that you're working on that you need us, it goes without question. Without question.
I would even dare say the Warner family that you had there in Nashville, that you created, the people that we work, those relationships have lasted forever for us. They're still strong. And we have such an affinity for everybody that worked with us during those times. We remember them like they're our brothers and sisters, and that means a lot. That's something that you instituted. And
we're all very fortunate.
Yeah.
We're all very fortunate in that regard. Whatever it is that happened, that this great group of people, because as I recall, we grew started with, when I got there, about 16 people, I think, to 127. And through that entire time, everyone was a part of a great team of people, as you say. And we were all fortunate to have ended up at that particular time in our lives and of our lives so that we could spend that kind of time together. It's unforgettable.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, thank you. That's why we wanted to have you on, man. And this has been a pleasure for us, to see you, to talk with you, to hear your stories. And Jim Ed, this is the shortest period of time you've ever talked.
Good one, Clark. Good one.
Truth.
So we appreciate you, man, and we love you. Thank you so much. And I got to do a little bit of housework here. You've been listening to the Spread Love podcast, everyone. Please like and subscribe, and please tell everyone about it. Like and subscribe. That helps the YouTube algorithm. Also want to let everyone who's out there listening or watching this know that Take Six will be in Delaware this weekend for a Juneteenth show. We'll be doing that on Saturday. And then we will be in Aspen, Colorado at Jazz Aspen the next weekend. And then very importantly, we'll be in Seattle at Jazz Alley from June 29th until July 3rd. We have 6 shows, 1 Wednesday night, 1 Thursday night, and 2 Friday and Saturday night. So come on out. Come to any of those shows. Shows are picking back up. So come on out. Come on out. Come on out. Thank you, Jim Ed. We love you, man.
Love you guys. Thank you. Good to see you.
All right, everybody listening. That's been the Take 6 Spread Love podcast. We'll see you next time.
All right. All good.